also love soul aligned journaling. It's what I've termed, it's what I've created. And what soul aligned journaling is actually writing from the space of what you would like your life to look like. And so when we begin to do that, we start to open up. Our soul, our inner being begins to speak to us through our words because there's power in your pen.
Hi, I'm Glennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe. In midlife, we go through so many transitions and so many attempts in many cases to maybe remake ourselves, do something that's better, healthier for ourselves. And sometimes we make it, sometimes we don't. But what about a situation where where you know that you have to get healthier or die? And you realize that if you don't lose the weight, if you don't take better care of yourself, your future's not bright. I have to say that Tara Wiskow is definitely an inspiration. It should be to all of us because she has lost 220 pounds. And if you were to see her, you would first of all think about how gorgeous she is. You can't even imagine that she could have been that heavy. But at one time she was. And we're going to be talking with her today. She is an intuitive healer as well as a life reinvention expert who helps women break free of their self-abandonment, self-sabotage, and the cycle of people pleasing. And after transforming her life by losing 220 pounds, naturally and overcoming some pretty deep emotional struggles, she now guides women to heal by releasing and limiting their limiting beliefs and also releasing those negative emotions and blocked energy that really keep all of us from moving forward with our lives. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the Vibe Living Podcast. It's great to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for those kind words and that amazing welcome. I am absolutely honored to be able to be here with you. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. Of course, I'm going to ask you for your story because that's amazing. 220 pounds. Sometimes when people lose that kind of massive amount, that in itself can be traumatic, but you look beautiful all in one piece. So tell us, how did this journey begin?
Oh, thank you. My journey began after going through a divorce and an experience of cancer and becoming a single mom. After that journey, I remember looking at myself and thinking, wow, you've been given another chance at life. You have been given permission to stay on this earth and you are living in a body that you're miserable living in. You're not showing up as the woman that you always thought you could be, primarily as a mom. I was a mom of three boys and I had sisters. I had five younger sisters. And so to be a mom of three boys and not be active and not showing up in the way that I really always thought that I would caused me to have a lot of trauma within, a lot of disappointment, shame, and guilt. And so that's where the journey really started of knowing that something had to change within my body. I needed to begin the journey of losing weight. And it started oftentimes, I think, where every person starts, it's in trying to find those very fast fixes. It took me quite a few years to gain to the point of being 338 pounds. Yet at the same time, I felt like it should take me 10 days to snap my fingers and make the decision that, oh, I want to lose over 200 pounds. And I should just wake up the next day feeling like I'd absolutely done it. And so my choices were really unhealthy choices. Doctor prescribed, internet suggested, friend recommended. I put a lot of drugs essentially into my body because they always had the most beautiful promise tied to them. They were guaranteed to work. They were going to help me lose the weight no matter what. There was no chance of not being successful. And there was a lot of unsuccess to it because even though they helped me in a lot of way with the eating, where they didn't help me was in how I felt about myself on the inside. And so my own persona of myself, my limiting beliefs, my negativity towards myself always caused me to be very short-sighted or very limited in how long I took to allow any medication that I took to have the results that they could have given me if I would have really taken an approach that would have supported the drug that I was taking. And so what eventually happened is I turned to bulimia. I started to struggle with eating disorders. And after a year and a half of struggling with bulimia, particularly, I realized I hadn't lost a lot of weight. I was
Mm.
losing clumps of hair. I was a zombie. I was worse in the category of a mom than I was before the journey started of my weight loss. And that's when I started to really struggle heavily in the mental health space. And I began to have suicidal ideations, and eventually I attempted suicide multiple times. So that's my journey, my weight loss journey. It's a heavy one, and it turned out to be a beautiful blessing because of my middle son saving me my final suicidal attempt and making me really realize I had a choice. I could choose how I
Wow.
wanted to live my life.
Your middle son, how old was he at the time?
He was 5. He was 5 years old. He was a baby.
Oh, wow. And he actually saved you?
He came into the room and witnessed what was going to happen, and he asked me a question. He said, "Are you going to die, Mama?"
Oh,
And in
wow.
that moment, I thought I'd locked the door, and I hadn't. Everything happens as it's meant to. Still to this day, I know I locked that door. I
Mhm,
remember
mhm,
locking that door. And somehow that door became unlocked from
mhm,
the inside and allowed the door to be opened and for my son to walk through and ask me that question. And when he asked me that question, it stopped me in my tracks. I thought, wait. I have a choice. I can decide if I'm going to live. I had never thought like
mhm,
I could choose this because I believe that I was created to be this woman that was overweight, that in my mind was ugly, was unsuccessful, was unworthy, was unattractive, unwanted. And I just thought that's who I had to be. And all these other women were these women of success and beauty, and they were smart and they were great at everything that they did. Everything they touched turned to gold. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't be them. And I
mm.
just chalked it up to I just didn't get to be. And so him asking me that question really made me connect the dots of, whoa, I can choose. I don't have to be this person if I don't want to. His 5-year-old innocence and that question pulled me out of this way of being that I had been for so many years.
Out of the mouths of babes, as they say.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Definitely. And that's a lot of trauma that you went through initially while you were, on your journey and getting to where I guess that was your pivotal moment. But now that you've gone to you're past the pivotal moment, you're on the process. How did you begin to process through the trauma? How did you begin to overcome the trauma?
Yeah. One thing that helped me the most was I very clearly heard in that moment as I was starting to come out of in that room, actually, in that moment of my middle son asking me that question was, you have got to learn to love yourself as much as you love your boys. That's your only way out of this. And
Mm,
I had known that I'd never tried anything about love. I never even saw myself as loving myself. I would
mm,
say I love you to my boys and to people I loved, but I never thought about internalizing that love for myself. And so that day forward, I began to use positive affirmations. I began mirror work before I even learned of Louise Hayes. And then, of course, her work absolutely tripled the progress that I was making in my success of actually learning how to love and embrace and accept myself. And so learning to love myself where I was at was honestly the very beginning step of bringing me home to myself, learning to look at myself in the mirror and feeling gratitude for the woman that I was and grateful that I got to be who I was, the key component to beginning to take me up and out of that traumatic experience.
So many women in midlife have been through maybe not quite the same kind of circumstances, but circumstances that were traumatic to them and
Mm,
kept moving forward, kept doing things. And somewhere along the way, their own self care really began to slip, which is actually when your self care begins to slip, it's really a form of self sabotage because if you're not taking good care of yourself, who's going to really do that? Because only you know what you really need. So, talk to us a little bit about that the idea of self sabotage and why that seems to be the root of so many women's struggles.
yeah. Self-sabotage is such a tricky thing. You don't realize you're doing it because we as women believe that when we have ourselves on the top of the list, we're being selfish or we're being conceited or not really taking into consideration the importance of everybody else in our life. And so we very easily put our name at the bottom of the list of priorities in our life. And even that is self-sabotage when we're thinking that we don't deserve to be anywhere but at the bottom. Because the truth is that when your name's at the bottom, that's the very first one that will get neglected. You
Right.
will never have time for yourself if you put your name at the bottom. And we do that intentionally because we, first of all, we don't want to make it look like we think we deserve things because we don't want to make it appear that we think that we're better than others because then that would make us selfish. That would make us in this state of believing that we're better than others. And as women, we are taught that we do not ever do that. It's everybody before us.
Mhm.
And so sabotage, it's very important. Oftentimes we women say, I don't self-sabotage myself. I just go about the day in my life making sure that everybody in my life is happy. And while that is true, there is sabotage in that because you're saying to yourself, everybody else is more important than I am. And
Mhm.
without being aware of you doing it, you're saying to yourself that you don't matter, that
Right.
it's okay for you to neglect your needs. And that in itself is sabotaging your self-care, your happiness, your health, your joy, your peace.
Yeah, that's very true. And I was thinking as you were talking about that, one of our responsibilities, especially if you are a woman that happens to be a parent, is modeling. And I have four daughters. I raised four daughters. They're all in their 30s now and all doing great. But one of the things, I don't know if I did, I probably did this unwittingly. I don't know if I was really thinking about it, but I look at what's going on in their lives now, and it's almost like looking in a mirror in some ways because when I was raising them, and I wasn't a single mom, I was married, but when I was raising them, I traveled a lot. I was climbing the corporate ladder and all that. When they were playing, instead of playing mommy, they used to play work when they were little girls because that's what they saw me doing. And I think sometimes we forget that our children are looking at us. Whether they realize they're really looking at us or not, they are emulating, they're taking cues from us and everywhere else. And because we're so outer directed initially when it comes to taking care of ourselves, I always tell women if that's difficult for you to think of taking care of yourself as a selfish reason, go ahead and be outer directed and say you're doing it for your family because
Yeah.
you don't start taking care of you, then the whole thing becomes upset. Things will not go well in your home if you're not there. And
Yeah.
I think that's the first step, maybe, if you can't focus on yourself, is to think about the fact of how it's going to impact others that you love. And you had a very, very traumatic thing to happen in the loss of your sister to
Yeah.
cancer. And you say that that was very impactful for you. How was it impactful? And how did you go about adding that to the experience of what you're doing now?
Oh my gosh. Losing Trisha, she was diagnosed with cancer in Christmas of 2022 and June of 2023. She was gone. So, a blessing that it was a very short experience of her fighting for her life, but sad that it was such a short journey. And in losing her, 5 days after her burial service, I sat and thought, did she really live the life that she wanted to live? Was
Mhm.
she herself? Did she live it fully as herself, or was she hiding her truth? And did she not ever get the opportunity to let people know who she was? And so it was me really being brought into understanding from her. She was bringing me this very profound message that, Tara, you have lived behind a mask since you were 8 years old. You have shown up as someone that you believed you had to be in order to be accepted, loved, and wanted and not abandoned. And me asking that question in the relevance of Trisha really brought it in for me to be able to say, you're still alive, Tara. And what you're worried that Trisha didn't get to do, you're not doing it for yourself. And do this for Trisha. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for you. And that gave me, in that moment, I got up off the swing. I was sitting outside by our pond in the yard, and I came in and I started writing down all these things that I knew to be true about me. And I wrote down 5 things that I knew. That's after an hour and a half of working all on it. All I could think of were 5 things that were true. And they were all very basic factual things. I'm a mom of 5 boys or 3 boys. I'm a sister and I have 5 sisters. Everything was factual, but nothing was really, I didn't know anything about me. And so that was that pinnacle moment of going deep and uncovering exactly who I was. And in doing that work, brought me into connection with meditation. And when I went into meditation, I was connected with Trisha. Trisha met me on the bench. And at the same time, my higher self came and joined us in that experience. And my higher self said to me, I've been waiting for you for a very long time. You are a healer. You're meant to be here to guide women through healing. And you've had the journey of coming here through your experience, through your trauma. And the time is now. And in that moment, I turned to look at Trisha in the meditation to ask her, did you know about this? And she was gone. And I knew she brought me there in order to have me connected with my higher self to receive that message of, Tara, it's time to come home to yourself.
Wow. Is that when things began to shift for you in terms of your identity and who you are and the things that you want to do?
Yeah, I'd lost 220 pounds. I had altered my whole outer body. My inner world was still constant chaos of
Yeah,
hiding.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that before, that women who lose a lot of weight like that, they, on the outside, they're one way, but on the inside, that person who had all that weight is still there. They still have another journey from a spiritual perspective, an emotional wellness perspective to begin to
Yeah.
overcome. So when women do make that identity shift, in fact, I wanted to ask you, why is it so difficult for us to make that shift or to move past situations where we're feeling stuck or disconnected?
What I have found personally, it's every individual is very individual in their experience. Most commonly, it's because we're so inundated with limiting beliefs, negative emotions, negative energy that actually has pulled us out of our authentic connection with ourselves. We are so disconnected that we really don't even know what our identity is meant to be. And that comes from the years of being a caregiver and showing up for instance, you and your daughter A had, you needed to be this for her, and so on and so forth for all of your daughters, as well as your partner and in your career path. And
Mhm.
so, most often, the most difficult reason, inability to be able to become unstuck and fully step into our authentic identity is we really don't even know who we are.
That's
We've
true.
we've been somebody for everybody else, and along the way, we forgot who we came here to be.
You know, it's interesting because, first of all, I believe that it's never too late, but midlife in particular is such an excellent opportunity to go ahead and peel back the layers and start getting to know you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to do because maybe there aren't as many people pulling at you. Your children maybe are away at college, or they're getting older, or they're like me, they're off living their own lives and all that. But something about transition and transformation during midlife helps facilitate that self discovery. But sometimes you just need to have that initial motivation to get it done. So if you were to, when you're talking with your clients and helping them find their way, what kinds of things do you do for them to help be that trigger to get them on that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do things like releasing limiting beliefs and negative emotions with NLP, neuro linguistic programming. That's one of the biggest things to help them to go into the transition because we're releasing these beliefs that are actually holding them back. Things
Mhm.
like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of success, any limiting belief that comes in the way that blocks you. And so that's one of the biggest things. I also love soul aligned journaling. It's what I've termed, it's what I've created. And what soul aligned journaling is actually writing from the space of what you would like your life to look like.
Mhm.
And so when we begin to do that, we start to open up. Our soul, our inner being begins to speak to us through our words because there's power in your pen. When you're writing, your true thoughts are emerging. Nobody else is present. Nobody else is directing you what to write. You're on your own. And that is one of the most powerful pieces of work that my women begin to do is that journaling. They really start to uncover what their joy is, what their desires are. They start to dream big. They begin to look at themselves in an entirely different way. And then we accompany power statements, and that is actually standing in the mirror and speaking powerful statements such as, I am a healthy, wealthy, worthy, confident woman. Things in that nature, which build us up, get us standing up taller and our sternum back and our chin up, and speaking in a way to ourselves that empowers us rather than shrinks us.
That's very interesting because I know that I guess your official title is you're an intuitive energy healer.
Yes,
That's right.
yes,
And I know what energy healing is. I'm just stumbling because I'm looking up the words here.
that's okay.
And when it comes to that, how does that kind of background, that skill set, help you guide people, help people to understand, first of all, what an intuitive energy healer is, and also what NLP is? Because some folks that might be listening to this, they may not know what NLP is and how that can help facilitate such magnificent change.
Yeah. So NLP is accompanied with MER, which is mental emotional release. And so it's timeline therapy essentially. What we're doing is we're getting to the root cause. When is it that you decided that this belief was true for you? So often we think it was when we were 13 or we were 18 or 24. And in fact, it is always before that. So it's
Hmm.
either going to come in from a past life or passed down generationally. If you believe in that, if you don't, your subconscious mind will never entertain it. It also could come in during your birth. It could come in, you could decide it to be true for you while you're in the womb or in your imprinting phase of 0 to 7 years old, never after that. That's when we want to get to that root cause of understanding, oh, I decided that this belief was true for me. And as you go through the years, what happens is you create this file folder and now has a tab that says, I'm not good enough. That's the belief. And as years go on, all the proof that says I'm not good enough, all your experiences build this huge file to have all the proof that I'm not good enough. What we have to do using the timeline to go down into that exact event when it happened, that precise moment that you decided, your subconscious mind guides you into it. You'll connect with the emotion. Our subconscious mind is very symbolic as well. So you might see yourself. I've had clients that have come out of that experience and said, I was riding a bike and I fell over. And they could see themselves at that young age and they could feel that emotion. So we go into that event to connect to the emotion. We come up above your timeline. We travel far in the past, well before anything like that ever happened. And then we release it all the way back to now. That's what the NLP, the neuro linguistic programming and mental emotional release is. We actually take that file folder and we
Mhm.
rip it and it no longer exists. So that belief does
Wow.
not reside within you. It is so powerful in helping to release us of the binds and the holds and that stuckness. When it comes to the intuitive energy healing, it helps in so many ways. I get so excited. So, one of the ways is actually going in, and I can intuitively see, feel, and know where you have energy that is blocking you, whether
Hmm.
it's your own stagnant energy, imprints, foreign energy, or discarnate energy. I can tell where it is in your body. And I am a healer. So I don't heal you. I am using the guidance of God, the universe, the higher power that is helping me to actually release it and purge it out of your body. You also are huge in helping me because you have to allow that. You have to open yourself up and you have to let it be purged out of your body.
Mhm.
And so I purge it into me, and then I am releasing it so that it can be alchemized into love, peace, and joy. And that, as a collective, benefits the world because we're all one. And so when you release and heal, and we alchemize the negativity into love, peace, joy, anything of a positive, high frequency energy, it benefits the world as a whole. And I also save a bit of it to put into you because we've now released, you have this big gaping spot of where something negative was. I want to fill that with love. I want to
Mhm.
fill that with joy and peace so that nothing of negativity can actually take up
Back in.
residency, right?
Yes, it's interesting because when you do clear things like that, you want to put something back in that's positive and
Yeah.
that edifies the person that just lost because we get used to that kind of baggage. It's a
Yeah.
comfortable, warm place to be. And when you do release it, there is this kind of feeling of now what? And so it's so important to be able to fill it back up with decreeing and declaring who you are or who you want to be or proactively saying, this is who I am. I've done a lot of work with energy healers. They all have different methods, but my big deal was not feeling that I was good enough to pursue my second career. I was suffering from imposter syndrome and
Oh,
which is something that's very common. When I started my business, I was 51 years old, and that was almost 18 years ago. And I had a this block that even though I didn't have the education for what I wanted to do, but I did have a pretty good education with a PhD and a master's and all this other stuff. And but still, yet I didn't feel like I was prepared to run a business. And these were things that were running on the conscious level. But the even deeper piece was no matter how much education or experience that I got, I would never be good enough. And it took me a while to release all of that. And when we peeled back the layers to see where did that come from, it came from when I was learning how to ride a bicycle with my grandfather. And it wasn't anything that he said. It's just that I kept falling till finally he didn't say it, but the emphasis was we'll try again another day. And that to me meant we'll try again another day. And the other day didn't come right away. So it's like, okay, I guess I'm just not good enough for another day. I'll never be good enough. That's where it came from. And it took me a long time to get to that. But one day it was just a very fleeting memory, very fleeting. And then once I remembered that, then I remembered more details about that day, what happened and why we didn't, because he left the next day to go back home. And there were so many reasons as to why he didn't, but none of them had to do with his thinking that I was unable to do it. It's amazing how something so small could really, and a lot of women in midlife especially deal with the imposter syndrome. No matter how accomplished they are, I can remember when I was in corporate America, I've been in it for 25 years. I don't think there was one day that I didn't feel that any day somebody was going to walk in and fire me and say, I'm really not good enough. That's what drove me to climb that corporate ladder, to get into the C-suite and everything else, because if I didn't, I'd lose my job. And of course, that was ridiculous. But I took that and then carried it on to as an entrepreneur. And finally, it was an energy healer, a friend of mine who told me, Liz, you got to release some of this stuff because you're not going to make it if you keep feeling like what you're doing isn't good enough. And after I released that, there was a lot of change in my relationships, a lot of change in how my business was going. There was a huge change in me. And I think one of the reasons I was interested in having you on to speak about it is how impactful energy healing can be and how it can change. And then coupled with your story, I would imagine your story and your metamorphosis even lends itself even better to the idea of how energy healing can really make a change in your life.
yeah. Thank you. Wow, you have a beautiful journey that you went through.
It was interesting.
I love it.
It was interesting.
I honestly wish that I would have had healing back when I was 338 pounds. I don't
Mm.
feel like I would have struggled as deeply as I did through the journey. I don't feel like I would have had such pivotal ups and downs that were so traumatic. And so, if I would have had that healing, the intuitive energy healing, if I would have had NLP in that time, I really do believe that my journey would have been so much shorter and less difficult for me. Now, of course, when I say that, I also know that my journey had to be what it was. It had to be in
Mhm.
order for me to become who I am today. And it's also why I knew NLP and integrated energy therapy, as well as the intuitive energy healing, had to be part of my offerings because I wanted to bring women home to themselves. I wanted to help them rise so much faster and with less struggles and stress than what I went through because it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be grueling and heart-wrenching and feeling like you have to throw in the towel every second of the day. It really can be so empowering and beautiful of coming home to ourselves. And that's what I've been blessed to be able to bring into the
I was going
world
to
today.
say that your testimony really shares the possibility of full circle moments. You really did come full circle. I was thinking, gee, probably you needed to experience the fact that even if you lost everything from the outside, there's still the internal work that needs to be done. We have a
Yeah.
tendency to be such a surface oriented society. It's based upon how people look. If you're pretty and beautiful, you automatically get an in for something. And but the person could be a horrible person. They still have those looks. So we have a tendency to be really surface level. And I think that's one of the things that's gotten us into trouble before we are as a country. Without getting political, I think we can all agree that these are difficult times. And it's time maybe to take a look at our ideologies and the things that we have been clinging to for so long to say, is that really working for us now? And it really just start with each individual person doing that. I believe if each individual person did the work that they needed to do internally, that we all need to do, we'd be in a very different place. I always say that we have two kinds of people. You have the walking wounded, and then you have the walking wounded who decided they want to heal. And I'm
Yes.
on that journey. I think you're always in a state of becoming, always working on yourself, always growing, always in a state of becoming. And then once you have gotten to that point where you have become, you really have became, you're gone. You're gone to another level. That's the end of that journey for what you have to learn on this plane. And I think it's such a healthy way of being, especially in midlife, because you're already going through transition, to take that opportunity to peel back the layers and begin to start healing and finding out who are you really, who do you want to be, and how can you get there. And I think working with someone like you could definitely make a huge difference.
Thank you. Beautifully said. I really do agree with you on everything that you said of each of us really looking at ourselves and going in. And I love that you say we're always becoming. And in fact, it's ironic. I have written here, becoming her is what
Wow!
I have written. So I right away you said that.
No such thing as coincidence, though, right? I mean, there's
No.
definitely there was some place during the course of our talking that there was a shift. I don't know what it was. There was a shift.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was you said or what it was. And I said, okay, there's some synergy here in terms of something, but I didn't know what it was. There it was, becoming, because we're in a constant state of becoming.
Yes.
Yeah, a becoming is never quite, you never really quite achieve becoming, just like you never really quite achieve tomorrow, because once you get to tomorrow, it's today. So
Yes.
becoming, once you get to becoming, you've became. And then,
Yeah.
as I like to think, you're on a different level, whether that plane is here on a higher level or there somewhere else on a higher level. But you definitely moved and made that shift. So I'm so glad you came here on the podcast today. And thank you so much for making the shift. And everybody, definitely take a look at all of her information. Tara's information is here on the show page. You can go to her website. And I believe you have a free download as well. Is that not true?
Yes.
Tell us
Yes.
about that. What is that?
So, the free download is a four-part video series where it's stepping into your confidence by making four significant energetic shifts. And in each of the videos, I guide you through it. There's meditations in there, there's a workbook that's tied to it that you get for download. So, it's a really powerful experience. It's about 4 hours in length when you go through each video, is about an hour long. So, it's a bit of a commitment. However, it's a commitment that's absolutely worth it. And the women that have committed to it, went through it, have had impressive experiences of becoming and really being able to say, wow, I shifted a lot through those 4 sessions of listening to you and doing the work and dropping into the meditation. So I absolutely encourage anybody to take a look at it and experience it for themselves.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll be looking forward to doing it. I encourage all of you to do it as well. Thank you, Tara, for being on the Vibe Living podcast. It's been wonderful having you here today.
Thank you as well for having me, Linus. It's been amazing.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you to all of you for listening. I know you have so many different podcasts that you could be listening to. Thank you for making us we're in the top 5% of podcasts in the world. So that makes me feel really good. But most importantly, I'm hoping that each time you listen to the podcast, there's something, an aha moment, a key takeaway, something you want to share with someone else. So please take the time to comment and share this podcast. We love reviews. I'd love to hear your reviews as well. I love the idea that every time you come, you find out more about how to vibe, how to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. Thanks so much for listening. Have a fantastic day. And don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.